Although many of our construction projects are the result of growth in a branch territory, our donations also are put to good use when disasters strike. The organization is quick to respond to the needs of our brothers and sisters in affected areas. This includes the distribution of relief supplies. It also involves helping our brothers repair or rebuild their homes and kingdom halls. This was the case in 2011 when a large tornado ripped through the state of Missouri in the United States.
When a disaster strikes, the disaster relief desk takes the lead in caring for the needs of the field. This is done by using volunteers. Our brothers know how to work together. We're using volunteers who are used to crawling over each other and working in a kingdom hall. So they have the ability to get into a disaster situation and take direction and just take care of it.
It's an evaluation process to see what's needed. Then the purchasing department locally will then go ahead and start buying materials. Those will be delivered, and volunteers will come to prepare the home back to livable conditions so that our brothers and sisters can get back into their homes.
So we stabilize the friends, we stabilize the houses, and we can stabilize the congregation. We had a group of brothers that went into Joplin, Missouri after the tornado destroyed 30% of the city. We had probably 30, 40 volunteers working on the house. And a woman comes down the street from the neighborhood. She sees all the volunteers working. She thinks it's a construction organization. She says, "Can I pay you to come over and fix my garage?" It was basically a shed that had been picked up off the slab and turned upside down and moved a few feet away from the slab. So the brothers said, "Well, let's go take a look at it." So they went over and they took a look at it. And it wasn't that hard. The shed was still intact. They said, "We could do this in a few minutes." So they went and got all their volunteers. They went over there, they picked the shed up. They got about 30 brothers on it, and they turned it over and put it on the slab. And the woman was so thankful. She says, "Okay, so what do I owe you?" They said, "No, we're all volunteers. We're Jehovah's Witnesses. We're working through the local Kingdom Hall here, Relief Center." And she says, "You're kidding me. You're all volunteers." She says, "Yeah." And we're out. She says, "Well, what are you doing here?" She said, "We're out working on our brothers and sisters' homes and trying to help them get stabilized." She was in tears. She came back down the street a few minutes later with a wad of money in her hand. She said, "I want to tell you a story." She says, "I called my church after this happened, and I asked them to come do this work for me, to put this shed back on its slab. They said, 'We can do that. We'll be there in about 3 weeks, and it's going to cost you this much.' She says, and here you folks come over to my house. You don't charge me. You don't even know who I am. And you put my home back together, what I needed to have done." She says, "Here's the money. You have this. You put it in your contribution box."
When someone helps in building a kingdom hall, when someone helps in building an assembly hall, when someone aids in caring for a natural disaster, their lives are changed forever. When someone is benefited by one of these programs, their lives are changed forever.
The love demonstrated in the organization is truly faith-strengthening to see. The same arrangement to respond to disasters is in place all around the world.
Thousands of our brothers and sisters have willingly volunteered to reconstruct or repair kingdom halls or our brothers and sisters' homes. Others carry and deliver food, water, and many other items needed after disaster to help our brothers by using any transportation means possible: horses, boats, trucks. Some volunteer with paint rollers and brushes. Others show up with shovels to clean up after a disaster, prepare meals for the workers, put supply packages together, and sort, bag, and deliver them. All with a smile. Just look at all these happy faces. When we see our belongings covered with mud, brought outside, and thrown as garbage, we feel very heartbroken. But the brothers and sisters saw them not as a lump of garbage, but as a mass of our feelings. The day the construction brothers arrived at my home, I burst into tears. Now, I'd like to clarify that I didn't cry because I was going to get a new house, but because I saw Jehovah's hand in my life. The transformation was not limited to my house. This experience has changed me. I've not only seen, but also felt Jehovah's tender care. They not only repaired our house, they also repaired our heart. We were able to see Jehovah in this beautiful work of strengthening help. Even though we lost our possessions, being busy in the construction and preaching work helped us to maintain our emotional and spiritual balance. We felt a lump in our throats at being witnesses to the tender care of our protective God.
I just went up to the lookout overlooking where we live here, and all you see is water. You see the trees, and then underneath them, just water everywhere. So it was pretty nerve-wracking.
Ready to go. And that was...
probably had somewhere around 3 to 4 inches of real heavy silt sitting on the floor.
The shepherding program was an answer to prayers because you're just feeling so overwhelmed.
They're cleaning everything out for me.
The earthquake triggered a tsunami that devastated cities along the eastern coastline of Japan. 1 year later, published reports indicate that over 15,000 people died, and over 3,000 are still missing. By establishing 3 main relief centers and 21 warehouses and relay stations to distribute supplies, donations were received from fellow witnesses from around the world to support a long-term rebuilding effort. In just 2 months' time, 250 tons of supplies were distributed to victims.
It may be happening in Japan, but we feel it as if it were happening in our backyard. We have volunteers who have already told us they're willing to go wherever there is a need for help, anywhere in the world.
When we first heard of the opportunity to come here, we didn't even have to think twice about it. Immediately, our first thought was we would be privileged and love to come to do what we could to help our brothers and sisters.
Everyone makes such an effort to help each other. That's been a wonderful aspect.
The world can be a small place, and our brothers and sisters are everywhere, whether it's Japan or Russia or Africa.
We are not particularly tied into the boundaries that exist among the nations in general. We view this as one globe and one brotherhood, and wherever there is a need for help, then we give the assistance that's needed right there in that community.
First, they came and repaired the walls, and then gave us all the necessary electrical appliances. Our 2 cars were submerged in the flood as well, and we could no longer use them, so they supplied us with a car.
Ayadoi lost her mother and her grandfather during the disaster.
They didn't just bring the necessary aid, they really listened to my story. The relief work of Jehovah's Witnesses has a personal focus. They truly show concern for each person.
Residents were often surprised to see fully furnished buildings rise from the rubble in a matter of weeks.